Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture.
Welcome, plant people. We are down one Alexis. She's out in Utah seeing cut flower farms and attending a conference.
She doesn't read that intro every single time, Brett. You're letting secrets out, man.
We had to zoom her in remotely for the intro, but other than
just
that,
speak the
she
intro.
won't be here for the rest of the episode.
To speak this episode into existence.
Well, this will air after she's back, so don't like break into her house or anything. She's already back.
No,
okay.
Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah, she's here. She's here. So
I scolded her for not letting everyone know that she was gone, and then she says she realized that she forgot to tell everybody that she was gone, but it made sense because I got text messages from her at a weird hour that I normally don't get text messages from her versus, I was like, oh, you're in a different time zone, that's why.
Well, I saw her
She's just trying to
Tyler,
cultivate the feeling of being missed.
I saw his feed. He was posting like fish like gear, and I'm like, he's somewhere, so that means Alexis probably somewhere. And then I got onto Alexis. I'm like, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
Oh, so you scolded her as well.
Yes. So she's getting coming and going. That's what you get.
Lucky for us, we've upgraded because we have the smart, the talented, the amazing Sarah Geurkink from the Organic Association of Kentucky with us today. Sarah, how are you?
Hi, guys. Good. Such a fun group. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Well, so I have a little question for you, and if it's coming from me, it's probably going to be trees. What is your favorite spring blooming tree? The experience of seeing that, maybe smelling it, maybe otherwise. And if you pick something really basic and that's a good standard conservative choice, maybe pick a secondary one if you have another one that you want to throw out. Like if you say dogwood.
Yes, it depends on what you're saying.
Don't take my plant, man. Don't take me to look at you.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Who's going first?
You go first, Brett. So I want to hear.
I want to go first. I got a lot in the chamber. I got a lot to give.
I know Brett's got something good.
Why don't we start with our guest, Sarah?
Yeah, so Sarah.
I really like spotting pawpaw flowers in the forest.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
The fly pollinators coming in and sniffing it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I saw Kirk Pompert from KSU posting pictures of the pawpaws in his backyard and out at the orchard and the flies. He was excited. Lord of the Flies, the pawpaw tree.
It's a survivor. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't think about the blooms when I think about those, but they are really cool. Yeah.
They're freaky. They're like little demogorgons.
It's very strange if you look at those guys closer, kind of inconspicuous, but once you see them, you see them. So yeah, it's kind of wild. Very nice. Very nice.
Jessica?
Okay, now I feel like I can't just say these basic things because you already said one.
You can. I just wanted to expand the audience's knowledge. I mean, Sarah had a perfect answer, so just
okay. She made me think of one that I'm really excited about. It has not bloomed yet, but it's right there in my yard. Is a Carolina allspice that I have. I'm very excited about it because there's lots of buds on one that I planted 2 years ago. But I was gonna say the dogwoods were really popping this year, or the red buds.
Oh yeah, the dogwoods were nice.
I brainwashed my oldest child while we were driving to school, he'd be like, dogwood, which it didn't annoy me or aggravate me at all. I'd be like, you missed one. But some people might get frustrated with him yelling out every single dogwood. Right?
Yeah, we have a white one in our backyard and a pink one in our backyard, and it seems like they don't necessarily alternate having really good flowering years, but it seems like when one is really good, the other one is not as good. And this year was the white. It's just like it was like a white Cadillac, just like bright, almost luminescent. Those are good answers.
Oh, yeah.
Ray?
I was trying to think. Well, we already talked about dogwood and redbud. That's the classic combo. As I'm driving up and down the Mountain Parkway, it's so pretty this time of year. Classic combo. So I'm kind of like Jessica's child. I'd say the same thing. Dogwood, and all of its many many variations from the natives to the cultivated varieties. But I've got to say, around May, I start to look for the magnolia blooms in Red River Gorge. Some of those, what is it? Is it the big leaf magnolia that has like the bloom that's like 12, 14 inches across? There's cucumber and big leaf and a star, I think, magnolia. But I think it's the big leaf that have these massive, I'm going to pick something gaudy, Brett. Really gaudy, May and June. So it's got to be the magnolia in the gorge. And I go and look for those specifically, along the edges of the roadways and stuff. The blooms seem to be a little bit bigger. But yeah, I love that one. That one's just a big showy bloom.
Our friend Neil Wilson has a really nice young big leaf magnolia in his front yard, actually. That
has it bloomed yet? Has it bloomed at all? I guess. And is it?
No, it's not that young. It's not that young. It's just not. It's not that old. It's like me, not that young, but not that old.
Yeah. So that's a good one.
I think for me, I'm going to go with an unsung hero of the spring performance, which is. I'll go with the whole pine genus, but a special shout out to the eastern white pine.
Okay.
This is the period where the buds begin to extend and turn into candles, and it looks like this tree is holding a bunch of little candles on the tips of its branches and in overall. But right now it's getting very phallic in the pinus community. The buds are popping. It's a very intense.
This is not where I expected this to go, honestly.
This is a science podcast. I think we can, I didn't say anything uncouth. I'm just saying what I feel.
Ray didn't make me have some mom guilt because I should have said Magnolia, considering my daughter's name is Magnolia.
Well, I wasn't going to say, knew that you were going to take Magnolia, but I was like, no, Jessica's thinking of like the Bay Magnolia. That's a landscape. She's not going to say that. But no,
I mean, Magnolia does play as a better name for a little girl than Dogwood, probably. But
right,
Little Red Bud. I mean, those are kind of those could work too, or a little Cornus moss. I mean, if you want to get technical about it, she can be like little Cornus. Yeah, been stranger things, but everything it seemed to be. It's been a good bloom year so far. It seems like I've just noticed. I don't know, just some years when the weather and the temps are just right, and we don't have super cold. Snaps that kill blooms, but it's been a pretty good bloom year so far.
It has been a little hot.
Of like purple dead nettle as I drive up and down 460 towards my office in Bourbon County, and people are stopping and taking picture. And I'm not going to, poo-poo on anybody's parade and say that's a weed. Don't take pictures of that. But there's these beautiful fields of just on farms up and down a couple that are just purple dead nettle, and they're defined borders and they look like you've just sowed this stuff. And it is a weed, but it is beautiful. This year's been one of the best purple dead nettle years, if there is such a thing, that I've ever seen. Just gorgeous. It reminds me every time I drive by these fields of like I'm in Holland or something. It's just really cool. So some good blooms this year.
Ours are the leaves are starting to yellow, and they're starting to kind of retreat from their spring ephemeral kind of vibe. And we never really touch those as far as weeding or anything, just because they're not very aggressive. They're not very anything. They're just kind of there. A little bit of pollen, a little bit of nectar.
The bees will bring in some. Yeah, it's like reddish orange pollen that you'll see on the bees, and that's what they're getting it from. So it's beneficial to leave it. It's gonna die anyways when it gets hot.
Goes away when the things that we're trying to grow, we want to grow them, it's already gone. So at that point, you don't need to treat for those for the most part, unless it's a special situation. They go away when we start to plant things typically.
Yeah, but to return to the pines just briefly, the uncouth description of those. Right now, there's a lot of them have pollen cones on them. And so, like, if you can like vibrate it, and then there's just this big,
I was gonna say, I've seen the memes like on social media where somebody like cuts a pine during this time of year, and here's this just death cloud of allergens, just a yellow, just going, just a mass cloud, like a mushroom cloud of pollen.
Yeah, I put on my bumblebee suit, and I like run through it, and then go and like find a giant flower to fall asleep in. It's like that's sort of my normal springtime activity. But
you go jump on the hood of every black vehicle you can find. Just
that's right.
Kind of jump on the hood. Yeah, deposit
That's
your
right.
pollen. That's how you roll, Brett. Totally believable. Totally
Yeah,
believable.
I don't know of many bees that take Flonase, but I'm maybe the first in this case. So I think for today, there's not going to be some magical segue, though we were talking about weeds and which ones to worry about and which ones to not, and that kind
We're
of thing.
talking about dead nettle, purple dead nettle. So there you go.
Yeah.
There's
We
a
talked about that, so I guess that is a segue in. But
we'll
we
make it.
wanted
Yeah,
to.
we'll make it a hard
I
one.
just wanted to kind of have a little bit more of a freeform episode today and talk about some little tips or fun, things that make life a little easier for producers or businesses, or you're trying to maybe do something a little different or try something out that we've seen in the course of we have a mix of farming experience and technical assistance experience on this chat here. And I thought, Sarah, maybe building off the dead nettle, maybe we'll start with the sage advice you said you received previously about weeds and time to seed and all that kind of stuff. Can you set that one up?
Yeah, sure. It was in the fall where things were apocalyptic. I was growing mixed produce on about 6 acres at the time, and I was talking to a wise advisor, and I said, I don't know, it was going to rain or something. I had a limited amount of time to deal with weeds, and he said you should just primarily what weeds are where, and kind of know your enemy. So know how many days until the weeds were going to go to seed, and know sort of what the weed seed bank in each field looks like, if it's already terrible or if you have a pretty good control in a field. I kind of prioritize based on facts about your field and facts about your enemy, the weeds. I thought that was helpful.
Yeah. And I think 6 acres, yeah, that's quite an area if you're thinking about weeds. Goodness, I mean,
it's an example of like working smarter and not harder. I think that sometimes we think of weed. It's like there are crop plants and there are weed plants, and this is the only two categories. But even within the weed community, there's some that are more problematic than others for a variety of reasons. And yeah, when you have a weed that is growing, yes, it's taking some stuff away from your plants. Maybe it could harbor disease or whatever. But for that moment, it is one weed. As soon as it goes to seed and sets seed and drops that seed, it's now thousands to maybe millions of weeds, depending on what it is.
And knowing how many seeds it will produce is another thing he
that
said.
Will depress you very quickly.
Yeah,
that will. I'm sorry. That will motivate you to action very quickly. Yes, foxtail or any of those.
Big weed.
Goodness. Yeah,
we get the poison hemlock calls all the time at the office, and it's like one flower can produce, and I'm probably not saying this the right way, the right number, but like 36,000, I want to say, like seeds. It's something in the like 30,000s amount of seeds like one flower head can produce. So we're like, know your weed, know what it looks like when it's young, and know like, okay, this is going to flower. It's going to be big time trouble later on down the road.
Well, for new producers, this is that's such a good one, Sarah, because I've worked with new producers, and you don't appreciate like the seed bank that's in the soil when you first start working the soil, and all of a sudden you till to 4 to 6 inches, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did all this crabgrass come from? And then you realize that there's seeds in that soil that's going to be there 10 to 15 years from now. That's probably a pretty good viability. But such an important concept, the seed bank, and especially on the organic end of things, depending on your production system, how you deal with things. But yeah, not letting any more seeds into the seed bank than you absolutely have to. That's a great one.
Ray, can you talk about the weed seed bank concept? Because this was something I had not come across until it's important in any agricultural production system, but it's particularly in ones where you're trying not to use herbicide and you're trying to kind of manage land for a long time. Can you talk about what that is? I think it's kind of clear, but maybe not.
Well, you just take, let's say, typical Kentucky field that may have some kind of fescue sod on it. You see fescue, and you decide to break ground and plant a crop. So you break the sod. In most typical systems, let's say you're a homeowner, you have a garden tiller that are tilled down to about 6 inches deep. When you go digging in the soil, You may not have had, let's pick on crabgrass. You may not have had crabgrass. It looks like it was just fescue sod for years. You till in the soil 4 to 6 inches deep, and all of a sudden you have all this crabgrass, and you're thinking, where did this come from? What in the world happened? Well, anytime you disturb the soil and you bring seeds close enough to get the warmth of the sun or actual sunlight, you don't know the history, the complete history of that soil 10, 15 years back in most cases. So you're going to expose the seed bank. And the more you disturb the soil, the more you tend to create conditions where seeds that have lain in the soil for many years in some cases are going to germinate. Now, there's all sorts of ways of dealing with that. If, like Sarah said, you don't do a good job, taking care of the weeds and not letting them mature and produce seed after seed after seed that goes back in the soil. There's lots of ways of dealing with that, and all of them take effort, time, and financial resources. So I find it's a lot better on the front end, not letting any more weeds go to seed than you have to. But I guess the moral of the story is the seed bank is always there in soil. You may think it's not, even in, let's say, corn ground that's been continuously cropped for years. If you stop that production system, all of a sudden there's going to be weeds emerge from there that haven't been there in 15 years, yet no new seeds been introduced. So that's the seed bank in a nutshell. And the more you till, the more you tend to expose those. So, these are concepts we have to deal with in production systems.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and put in a plug for Manage Weeds on Your Farm, a guide to ecological strategies, which is a Sarah publication.
Wonderful.
It shares, each weed species and then how many days to maturity and then how many seeds each plant would produce. And different methods of dealing with them.
And that is SARE. That's SARE. It's Sustainable
SAR,
Ag. Yep. And what does that stand for?
Sustainable Agriculture, Research, and Education.
Yes, there you go.
That's a USDA program. It's a sustainable ag program that is the longest standing federally funded program of its type through the USDA. I am happy to get to work with them quite a lot. So I appreciate the
They have a lot of wonderful publications, don't they, Brett? You and Sarah.
They do.
It seems like I've pulled on their publications, and they've got a lot of great stuff. I'm always amazed at some of the publications that they've sponsored throughout the years.
One of the things that's coming through to me in this discussion too is just like, we're plant people of varying experience and enthusiasm, but I think one of the things is thinking about weeds and understanding them as a plant and how they function and when to intervene and how to intervene. And even so one of the big Sarah things is cover crops. And if you have something like a ryegrass or a wheat or something like that, and that you're growing as a cover crop, you're also paying attention to when it goes to seed, to terminate it on time, to not let it go to seed, to not have a cover crop that you put out become a weed in your field by accident. Buckwheat is one of those that it can become kind of a problem if it gets up because it flowers so fast. But it's just in the same way with the not just treating it as sort of like it's a living plant with its own biological imperatives, and to just treat it as sort of this garbage to get rid of is, it's kind of counter. But even like the stuff like the purple dead nettle I mentioned earlier, like, I'm not worried about that compared to something like Johnson grass or amaranth or a pigweed or, something a little more aggressive. So that's a really good one to start on. Anybody else have a tip or trick or thing, no matter how big or small?
Kind of ties in just something that I realized the other day, like just a couple of days ago at home with this weeding wise. Just putting the time in, and this is more flower beds, or it could be even in your garden, just taking the time in to do like the mulch, or like putting down the weed barrier, like maybe in between rows that you can pull up each year in your backyard garden. But just taking that time up front, even though it's like, man, this is a lot of labor, but it'll pay off in the end. Because I was just thinking about my own flower beds, that one of them was just solid like weeds and grass like 3 years ago That's all it was. And I didn't till it up really. I've pulled weeds out. I've planted flowers and I'm building, perennials in there, but I've mulched it every year. And so this year so far, granted, it has not rained for a full month. There are still weeds that have popped up, but it was so much easier this year going into year 3 to pluck those few weeds that had already started coming up, because I've already taken out the big ones. And then, just to keep adding that mulch and organic matter, even though it seems like a big task at the beginning of the year to do that and a lot of work, it all I'm seeing how it's paying off, right? So with some of those, task of getting that weed management under control, even if it does seem like a lot of work and take a lot of time up front, it will eventually pay off in the end if you keep at it.
You'd also shared one about after transplanting stuff into black plastic.
Yeah, so like a tip and trick that learned over the years, if you're planting in black plastic or the black plastic raised beds for more commercial growers, or even if you modify it for your own backyard, sometimes it gets really hot. And under that black plastic, it kind of causes what we would say when I worked at the research farm, a volcano effect. And this heat would rise up out from under the plastic and could burn your transplants really easily. So the easy solution is to go along and put soil and fill that hole up around that plant. So then you don't have that heat coming out. And, over the years, we had used soil just from next to the plastic, right? Like it's already tilled up, just use that soil. Native soil. But this also ties to what we've been talking to. What are we moving into that area? We're moving weed seed in there. So if you hadn't done a pre-emergent or something, maybe between your rows, you're just bringing weed seed in right around those plants and having more competition. So it's best to just invest the money in a bag of potting soil, soilless media, right? Get it wet and then go down the row and fill in those holes with that soilless media. And you're not going to have near as weed pressure right up against those plants. So then you really do have a nice barrier of weed pressure, nice barrier from the plant all out to the side of it with weed protection that way. So your plant doesn't get fried. And then you also don't have to worry about coming along and weeding around those planting holes right there.
Yeah.
Double
nothing's
whammy.
More frustrating, than a bunch of weeds coming right up in that hole.
And then
just a seed bank,
And then when you try to pull them out, sometimes you accidentally pull the entire plant that you want, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's like,
I just imagine these poor, these little transplants, and they've been in a greenhouse and it's just been nice and they've been taken care of. And then you take them out and you throw them out in the elements, first off. And then you're putting them right on top of a steam vent under a solar, pressure and heat generator. And just think, man, what are they thinking? How are they feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, the cabbage lays up against that plastic, and I mean, it's a
it's like you could almost touch it with your hand. It's so hot, and I remember trying to shoot for days where it was going to be cooler and more overcast for a few days, and of course you don't want it to be too overcast that it rains and you can't get in the field, and it's just this balancing act. We had to put out some watermelons one time and it was so hot, but it was the only day we could do it, and we did transplants at that point.
Oh wow.
It was I was sure that we had just killed an entire field of watermelon transplants, but we did scoop in some weed seed bank. We did not use planting potting soil, but they survived somehow. Granted, they were stressed and they probably were set back several weeks, but they at least survived.
Nerve-wracking to see those plants just melt.
It was one of those things you're doing it and you're like, why am I even doing this? Like, this is just gonna, but I had to do it, and that's the way she goes. Well, Ray, you got any hot tips for us?
I don't know about hot tips. I was thinking back, and one of the things I've always loved, doing field work, is working with producers that are kind of leveling up their production. They may be going from a large home garden to more of a market garden, small scale. I just love working with those folks. But I worked with a lot of folks when I was in Floyd County in the far eastern part of the state. And one thing that I ran into a lot with folks is they were used to using homeowner versions of, if they had to use chemical products or, supplies, they were used to, using homeowner level supplies. But then they quickly found out that they had to drive, in our case, when I was working with those producers, if they had to get a 2-gallon concentrate of something, or they had to get, lay flat irrigation or something like that, it was a 2-hour drive to get any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that time and the expense of doing that, working with producers, that always kind of caught them by surprise. Once they leveled up, they got bigger, they realized quickly that they had to have access to commercial sources of horticultural
Mm-hmm.
supplies. And that is something that I said right up front. I said, you're going to get to this level, and we're going to have to, to drive, someplace, because there wasn't a lot of shipping at that time, and it was very expensive if you did have stuff shipped. But I told them to allot for time to go pick up supplies, and we made supply lists. We were very deliberate because fuel wasn't cheap even back then, and it did take time. But to kind of be deliberate, and we had to make lists to make sure to make every trip count, because that was a 4-hour round trip, 2 hours to get supplies, 2 hours back. And now that's not the case. We have much more convenient, supply sources much closer where I'm at now in the central part of the state. But when I was in a part of the state that those suppliers were not close, that was a big consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that we talked a lot about with producers that were leveling up their game in production. And it was kind of a big deal, and something I hadn't thought about until we started talking and having this conversation today. But it was a big deal. You had to
I think
allow
the scaling and access to some of those commercial products, even in small volumes, is one of the it's one of the bigger production growing pains that people come across, because they sort of go from getting their stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, and they're kind of putting stuff together, and that stuff's made for like your garden beds at home, and that's totally fine. But there are very specific horticultural products that work a lot better. The drip system in particular, like they don't sell Toro tape or whatever brand of tape, drip tape at those places. And especially like figuring out how to set it up. And we've recently, a couple of folks at UK have been doing a little bit more hands-on demos of those, that type of setting up that type of irrigation. Cause it's not overly complicated, but it is kind of overwhelming at first. Actually, Jessica, do you remember many years ago, I think at least maybe 2 children ago, if not 3, we
pre-COVID
made, oh gosh. Yeah. I watched that video not that long ago. Jessica and Jay Tucker from the UK South Farm and I put together, we have a video on irrigation parts and like, components of an irrigation system that we put together. I went back and watched that, and I was not on camera for it, but we were so young. You still look young and juvenescent as always, but man, it's been a few years. But I think another tip with that would be, if you are in those far-flung locations, if you can figure out somebody that you can stand to be in a car with for 2 hours and split the trip, go and get your stuff together, that can be another little mechanism for figuring that out. But I do agree with you, Ray, the scaling up to those specialty products. And it's that way in other industries too, where you sort of have a homeowner version or a consumer version, and then you have your professional versions. And it's kind of overwhelming.
I'll ask you guys this because I'm always curious and I'm always wanting to know more sources, but isn't there co-ops or different organizations where they kind of split bundles of things? Isn't that still going on for small producers? I want to say I don't work a lot with co-ops now. But do they do some of that, Jessica, at co-ops where you like boxes or, box supplies, things like that? Brett, you guys, Sarah, do you know of anybody that does sort of to ease the pain of producers?
At some points in the past, like the organization in our state, Grow Appalachia, was doing stuff for their sites, and part of their original funding structure from the Paul Mitchell Studio person's foundation, it required them to use organic practices. And so sourcing organic fertilizer, especially at that time, was really challenging. And so you'd basically have to order it from a pallet from Virginia or somewhere else. And if you did that for each site, that would be a total pain, or accessing compost and that kind of thing. They have done some collaborative purchasing in the past that I'm aware of, but I don't know. Do you all have other examples of that?
We get lots of questions.
I know that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I know Nolt's there are a couple of Noltz's in several locations, but they do a sale. They give folks a discount for ordering before December, maybe. So I was part of a group of growers that would try to put two orders together. One that is like when we have our stuff handled before December, get that discount. And then one that was oh no, I forgot this thing afterwards. And when I farmed, there was a guy named Andy who used to buy potatoes from Wisconsin. And it was in Wisconsin, but I'm pretty sure it was called Vermont potatoes. And he would drive organic potatoes. He would drive from Michigan, where I was farming at the time, to Wisconsin, pick up a load of potatoes for like 20 different farms, and then bring it back. So I'm a big fan of group purchases. And I used to say, hey, I'm going to such and such place. Anything that can fit in my car, feel free to order.
Oh man, that is dangerous, Sarah. We used to do that in the eastern part too, but and it ended up, it used to be a car, then it turned into a truck, then it turned into a big box trailer for group orders, and really, really informal, but different people would be like, oh, you're going to Lexington, get me this, or you're going to Liberty, Kentucky, get me this, and then it started out and it became a whole thing. And there was even discussion, I don't know if they ever did it after I left, of just like coming together as a group and buying a big box trailer so somebody could tow it if they were going. But kind of along those same lines, Sarah, of what you're talking about. Hey, it's like, it's like when you yell at the office, anybody want lunch? Yeah, all of a sudden everybody needs something.
Well, if you're going.
Cool. Well, since you're going, since you asked, yeah.
It sounds like Sarah, Andy, the potato procurer, sounds like he had eyes everywhere.
Oh man,
he was in the plainclothes community, and the only way to get a hold of him was leaving a message and then having your phone on you constantly. And he was very it was great because shipping for seed potatoes was is a big savings. He charged an amount for picking it up, but it wasn't nearly as expensive.
That's so cool when you can see people working together like that. And a lot of times there's no contracts. A lot of times it's just informal groups just accomplishing things together.
I've seen a lot of farmers markets do that. Like the farmers market here in our county has done that. The ones that my husband is a part of, they've done like big orders like that for more of like the tomato boxes, like different packaging material that they might use, or the clamshell kind of things, if there's several of them growing berries. And they've done orders like that, or a popular one are like bags, different things, reusable and non-reusable bags, going together as a market, ordering things and splitting them up amongst themselves.
And these are things like newer producers don't always think about, but the clamshells or the bags or the spuds that, if your potato field's gotten bigger, but and I ran into that a lot over the years when working with people, lovely. So
I will also say, if you happen to be relatively close to a produce auction, sometimes they also source boxes and source other types of materials that you can go and buy from them.
Like you have to be a member, or anybody can.
Some of them do, I think, but most of them, I think you kind of want to give them a little bit of a heads up if you need a lot, because they can just add it to their order, kind of the longer form version of, or the more complex version of, if you're going already, go ahead and pick me up some. But they're really interested in, promoting quality and having standardized product packaging and that kind of stuff. But some of produce boxes and stuff like that you can get from those. On this front of sourcing stuff, which I do think is a huge. Sarah's done a whole bunch of stuff about this. Sarah, you have a comment?
Oh, I just want to say, time-sensitive thing, but there is a place near Henry County that has yellow crates that are stackable. You can turn it in for $4 each, which is like so much cheaper than they usually are on Facebook Marketplace. I sent it to lots of farmers in an email.
Short time deal.
I really
flash deal.
I really think if I had seen that when I was a farmer, I would freak out.
You'd snap that up. Stuff like that's so handy.
There are like 800 of them left, so go get it.
Oh wow!
Use promo code Gerking to get a smile when you arrive.
I've heard they're sturdy but a little dusty.
Well, That's what the bin washer's for, whether that be a two-legged creature with thumbs or a machine. Sarah, another thing on the sourcing side that we have talked about before is the people element of working with vendors, seed vendors or other. Is this ringing a bell for you?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent. Give us a tip. I'm a big proponent of getting to know your seed rep, become besties with your sales rep for all kinds of things. So this is an advice that a farmer gave me many years ago, and I had a pretty close relationship with the seed company sales reps. I actually ordered my seeds over the phone and not online, because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I want the 10,000 seed packet of this thing, but you only have the 5,000 one, which is more expensive. And then they'll be like, we'll just give you 2 5,000s for the same price as the 10,000. If you order it by phone, or you could be like, this is out of stock. She'll be like, let me check if it's really out of stock, or but this other variety might be better for you. So it saved me a lot of money and time, even though I know kids these days are afraid of calling people, but I'm really into calling sales reps. And
there's something comforting about that.
Yeah, it's like a real human you're dealing with. And I really got a lot out of my irrigation supplier. His name was Al, and he was so helpful. And he gave me a lot of advice. I actually have, since moving to Kentucky, pinged him a couple of times with questions about irrigation.
Gosh, those suppliers can be absolute gold, and there was a couple examples of that where people were new to irrigation, but they even invited people, and they were Kentucky suppliers, invited people to come to their place. They would show them how to put it all together, take time. But it was that human relationship, getting to know a supplier, talk to them on the phone. And then my producer was like, well, I've never done this before, I have no idea. And they're like, oh, come on up, we'll show you. It'll only take us 30 minutes to show you how to put together this acre of irrigation. And they did. I mean, that's amazing. Just suppliers being helpful, just developing that relationship. Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, something you mentioned. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree. As you were sharing that, I started thinking in my own mind about with work and personal of times like ordering apple grafting rootstock and how they help me select certain ones by calling rather than ordering online, or ordering more sweet corn personally with a variety that we really wanted but was out of stock. And then they were able to still be like, hey, but we can find this one that's almost exactly like it. Like the maturity date is just a couple days, there's really no difference between this. And so you can get a lot of valuable information, like you said, that you might miss just by looking online,
Yeah, I think, another thing you mentioned, Sarah, too, is like, so a lot of these people, they're 21st century people. So they do phone calls, but some of them will also text you or email you, and to be able to shoot them a quick text and ask them a question. Obviously you're not going to do your whole seed order via text probably, but to just say, hey, any word on such and such, or like, is this a thing? Like, I'm having some germination issues. Is this a thing with this, whatever, like those types of interactions and relationships can be really, really powerful. And I will say, we had an event last year, and you were, even in your technical assistance capacity, practicing what you preach, really, like the number of vendors who were there that were really personable, that you were chatting up and had their numbers and were calling them and stuff, was really cool, and really like a affirmation that what you're saying is spot on, because those people were there. They took time, their companies took time and money to have these people come and show, in that case, some weed control equipment and stuff like that. But there were some seed reps there who were really friendly. And yeah, I mean, you may not be a huge customer, but they understand that you also know people and have relationships. And I'd say if you have a good experience with someone too, feel free to share that with other people and let them know, like, this person will actually call you back or text you back or whatever. I think that's a really
shout out to Dana Hilfinger at Johnny's Select Seeds.
Dana, did you say Dana or Donna?
Dana.
Shout out Dana, friend of the pod.
There's a person behind the organization, a name. Love it. And it can be so intimidating for these new producers to, any which way, there's all this stuff they're learning, and it seems like those relationships are super important.
Well, I have a tip, and I just shared this with a group in our Marketing for All 6-week training. recently. And since you nerds are talking about production and stuff, I'll just share a little kind of marketing tip of sorts. It's not so much it's more logistical, but so if you go put in the time and energy to think about your building out your marketing, whether that be little flyers or little promo things or your packaging or whatever, if you take the time to decide on some colors that you really like that are associated with your brand and some fonts that you associate with your brand, and you're trying to create some sense of continuity across everything, take the time in one form or another to write down what those things are in some place that's easily accessible. Now, with the colors, you may know this, you may not. Every color, thanks to our friends in graphic design and print professionals and everywhere else, every color in the world has a little identifier of sorts. And there's actually three or four, maybe more than that, different languages for how those colors are coded. But every color has what's called a hex code. And so it'll be a pound sign followed by like 6 letters and numbers. And that's a unique, it's like the social security number for that color. And so then what you can do is anytime you go and build a flyer, you can go back and use that exact same color again, and you don't have to go through picking and sliding and thinking and trying to figure out what it is. Brands, Coca-Cola Red has a very specific color that they always use for everything in whatever, format that they're going to use. The University of Kentucky has brand standards. There is a defined UK blue, and it has, you may see RBG or CMYK as other languages, and all of those can kind of be converted into each other. But take the time to do that one time. What I actually do in Canva, if you use Canva, is to go in and create a little file or a little design called your brand kit and create a little swatch of color, a little square, make it the color that you want it to be. And then in the center of that, you can actually put text and just type what the hex code is in there. And so if you have 6 different colors that you're going to use in your flyers, go ahead and just save those. The other one is fonts. Font stuff is something that people who are really into it are really into it. And other people are like, your ears are caving in right now because you're so bored by this. But if you choose some fonts that really you feel like fit what you're going for, and you're not trying to change the font every time, take the time to actually write down what those are as well. The main goal of this is that you will not dedicate any more brain power to deciding on what those things are after you first do it. And you can go back and just immediately reference it. You know that these are the fonts you use. So standardizing, if you use the paid expensive version of Canva, you can actually create a brand kit in there that has those colors, and it'll allow it to be and fonts and stuff and logos. But if you're trying to do it on the cheap, hex codes work pretty much on any different format that you might use digitally, and so that allows you to have the social security numbers for your brand colors. So that's a little tip from the marketing side.
I was thinking, you said fonts, I was thinking like the Coca-Cola font and like the difference between that and Dr. Pepper, but they're both been the same as long as I can remember. No, the color, yes, but also the stylistic, font that they use. It's
and I'll give a shout out. There is
recognizable.
If you are a Canva head, which most people who are doing this themselves are using that, I think there is a Canva font pairing guide that I still go back and regularly reference. It tells you fonts that look good together and kind of the vibe that they bring. There's like 25 or 30 different pairings that they give examples of. So if you're struggling with your design and you're trying to tweak some templates or whatever, that would be another quick tip for going and finding that out.
It's easier for me to think about the production side of things than very, very important stuff like you just talked about, Brett. And I think I've worked with a lot of folks that are sometimes can be similar. I find in the larger operations that I work with in my county that I'm currently in, there's usually somebody that does think about the social media stuff, the continuity, the logo that their farm uses. If they do a good job on social media or marketing in general, it's never an accident. There's always somebody that they're kind of assigned to think about that on those operations. And I don't notice it when it's there, but I notice it when that continuity is not there for these operations. And some of these will make a post and I instantly know it's them because of the way that they make the post or the logo that they constantly use, or the font or the color. So yeah.
Yeah. Creating a brand identity is it can be challenging. It's not the most important thing. There's other things, that are important to a business, but I find in general people who like growing plants, most of them loathe marketing and developing things like that. And so
You like to
anything that
grow
you can
things.
do to make, because I think most marketing is the things that actually make most marketing campaigns successful are really, really boring, simple tasks. It's like production in that way. Like a lot of the things you do individually are really boring, but they add up to something much more complex. And so the more I think people think, well, they want to create this idea that you have to be like this creative genius to be good at marketing, and it's really a lot of boring planning. And
you have to backfill the holes in marketing as well, Brett. You have to.
That's right. You have to, and I would use potting soil for that. I would not use field soil
with a specific type of font. So,
anybody got any other hot tips for us at the moment?
I don't know. Things are definitely growing.
On my CSA, I always had way more. I didn't want to be too generous to my CSA members. I wanted to give them the value that they paid for, maybe a little more, but not like twice as much. But we were swimming in tomatoes and peppers and stuff. So we made a peak season CSA that was just the month of August, which might be different in Kentucky. Maybe that would be the month of July. For folks who just want the sexy vegetables in the middle of summer. And it was just like a little infusion of cash flow without really affecting the rest of the CSA. And people who were CSA curious just tried it out.
So you marketed as sort of a short season. You said peak season kind of CSA, like a special
peak season. Yep. And it was more, gotcha. So the full season CSA, I don't know if this would work anymore nowadays. The last I did it was 2022, but the full season was about $36 a week, is what we charged. We were one of the more expensive ones because reasons. And the peak season, we charged $50 a week. So it was a $200 for a month, but people got, definitely more than $40 a week worth of produce.
Yeah. That probably really appealed to people like that canned tomatoes or did like preservation. I bet you it really appealed to them because I think about those folks or whatever need they might have for larger quantities. So they're like, heck yes, give me a box of tomatoes or whatever the case may be.
Or maybe they have a relationship to tomatoes like I have to peaches, Ray, and maybe they ate
millions
every single
of tomatoes
one of them raw or just fresh, and we don't judge people like that because
Lord of the Rings style, you just chow down on, let the juice just kind of run down.
It always comes back to Lord of the Rings.
It does. We try to make it always come back to Lord of the Rings.
Cool. Well, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed just kind of bouncing some ideas. If you enjoyed this type of episode, please do let us know on social media. You can do that on Instagram. We are at Hort Culture Podcast there. You can also email us at hortculturepodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. If you would not mind to rate us on these apps, whatever app you're listening on, we would really, really appreciate that. We know we have hundreds of listeners and we have only maybe 15 or 20 reviews. So we would love if you would take the time to do that. Just if you've been putting it off, now's the day. Just go over there, click 5 stars and you're done. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us and sharing some hot tips and hot tricks. And if people want to reach out to you in your professional capacity, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, our website, which I definitely know, is oak-ky.org. And then if you keep going and also type /production-consultation, you will get more information about Oak's organic production technical assistance program.
So you search Organic Association of Kentucky or Oak Kentucky KY, should get you there eventually. But there's a form on there that they fill out in order to get a consult with you.
Yeah.
Or with someone on your team.
For production assistance, it would be with me. So I get back to folks pretty quick. And I do work with commercial growers. So if you're a beginning grower, we have some resources online for that as well. And I'd be happy to refer you if you reach out to the great folks doing that work.
Amazing. Well, thank you once again for joining us. I think is this your second or third time here?
Second.
Okay. Well, we'll have Sarah back soon. I know we all love to hear from her. And I think next time around, Alexa should be back in the state of Kentucky. And between now and then, we will see you when we see you.